In this video, I'll be taking you through the knitting process to make this Y2K inspired halter top. In total, this top took me about a week, knitting with one strand of cotton using 5mm circular needles. Now, I'm not normally someone who enjoys knitting summer tops, but lately I have all the motivation to make summer tops for my wardrobe. So I decided to completely freestyle this one, improvising as I went, and I'll do my best to explain everything I did here so that maybe you can make one too. First of all, I knit this halter from the top down, starting with the necktie straps. I knit in a similar way to an I-cord while making increases along the way, which is kind of tricky to do. You will have to fiddle with it a little bit, but it is possible. So I cast on 2 stitches to start and immediately made an increase. Once I had 3 stitches, I made an increase after the first stitch and before the last stitch of every row until I had approximately 12 stitches. Like I mentioned, I knit this as you would an I-cord, which basically means I knit one row and instead of turning my work and purling, I instead slid all of my stitches to the other side of my circular needles and knit directly into the first stitch. This technique would work only if you had double-pointed needles or circular needles like I have, so keep that in mind. If you have straight needles, you don't have to work the straps in this way. I just preferred it as it resulted in a thicker fabric. Once my straps reached a length I was very happy with, it was time to form the cups of the halter top. I did so by working increases on each side of the strap. I knit the first 2 stitches and then made a left leaning increase. Then I knit until I had 2 stitches left and made a right leaning increase. I knit the next 2 stitches and purled. I did this every other knit row. While I was working, I was comparing the piece to my body to ensure that I was getting the coverage that I wanted for my top. And then, when I was happy with that, I worked a second strap and cup for the other half of the halter top. When both cups reached a length that I was happy with and coverage that I was happy with, I joined both sides by knitting across the row of the right cup, right side facing, and casting 2 stitches on my needles, and then knitting across the left cup. From there, I worked back and forth, knitting and purling while still increasing on the outer corners of the panel every other knit row until it reached my back side. So making sure that the panel was wrapping around slightly but not reaching my back. To add a little bit of interest, and because I was just curious about how it would turn out and if it would turn out, I decided to work decreases at the base of each cup. So having just a nice little gather at the base. I was sure to check the lowest point of my chest before doing this, making sure that the top was going to sit properly first before making the decreases. And then I marked out the points where the increases would sit between on my halter top. So I had 4 stitches on my needles. I followed the pattern knit 2 together, knit 2 together, until I reached my second stitch marker of each cup. At this point, I was still making increases on the sides, which I think helped balance out the stitch count. Do I think that it turned out perfectly? No, but I think that it does add a little bit of interest. It looks a little bit more interesting. It does work on the body, but you have to be careful about pulling too hard on the straps at the top. So after that, I was just knitting until I was happy with the length. So I was knitting back and forth, nothing else, just I stopped making increases and I was just knitting on the right side and purling on the wrong side until I was happy with the length of the halter. And from there, on my last 6 rows, I decided to knit in garter stitch. And the reason for that is with stockinette stitch, oftentimes you see that the fabric will curl a lot at the ends, which will shorten the garment, and also I just really don't like that look. I think it looks good for some garments, but for this one I wanted it to lay flat on my stomach, and garter stitch helps prevent that curling, so I knit the last 6 stitches in garter stitch and then cast off. So there I had the first, well, the main panel of the halter top, and all that was left was to make the straps for the back. And to make my life easier, I decided to work ties at the back also, because since I was winging this entire top, as I went, I didn't feel like making calculations. So ties at the back will make it a little bit more versatile for fluctuating body types. But I did want to make these ties a little bit more interesting than the ones up at the top near my neck. So what I did was make a gathering effect at the sides. I picked up stitches along the sides and then followed a pattern to add extra stitches as follows. So I knit 2, knit 1, and made an increase into that stitch, knit 2, knit 1, and made an increase, and so on. And basically adding those extra stitches will make that ruffling texture, that gathered look, but you will also have a lot of stitches on your needle. So I immediately started decreasing every knit row, and this will make a triangular shape to finish off your ties. And that basically sums up how I made this Y2K inspired halter top. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that this helped you get some inspiration so that you can also make a top like this. I hope that the instructions were thorough enough. Like I said, I was improvising, so I took very minimal notes, But nonetheless, I hope it's better than nothing. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!